Hello and welcome to LMC Media and a conversation with two uncontested candidates for the Mamaroneck Schools Board of Education. I'm Michael Metsch for LMC Media, and joining me on screen is David Carlos and Michele Metsch. They are the two candidates. And before we get started, I'd just like to mention that I am a retired MHS teacher, but I cannot vote for these candidates since I live in a different district. And also, some people think this is a League of Women Voters forum. It is not. The League has a strict policy about not getting involved in contests where there are no contestants, so to speak. This is an uncontested election. So with that said, welcome David and welcome Michele to LMC Media, and thank you for spending some time with us.
Thank you.
You know, our goal tonight is simply to let the viewers meet you and learn something about you, become aware of some of the issues that we bring up, and also the importance of voting on May 16th, not just for you, but also to vote on the school budget. That's a very important part. As I know from being a school teacher, that's a very important part of the process. So could I start with you, David? Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, happy to. Thank you, Mike, for organizing the forum. Thank you to LMC Media. Thank you to Michele for joining me. So my name, everyone, is David Carlos, more popularly known around town as Dana's husband. She is much better known than I am. So my wife and I moved to Larchmont about 11 years ago. We currently have 4 children in the district. Rafa is in 8th grade, Nina in 7th, Tiago in 6th, and Mateo in 3rd grade. So we are all in. And for me, running for the school board is very personal for 2 reasons. One, I am a product of a public school system in Waterbury, Connecticut. Not nearly as amazing of a school district as we have, but in any event, it was the card that I was dealt. Like many families in our district, my parents were immigrants, working class immigrants that did not speak English and relied really on the public schools to play a vital role in shaping, my character and the character of all of our public school students, and also to really influence students' aptitude. And so because of that experience, I do believe that strong, diverse public schools are the linchpin to successful communities. And so that's really one reason why I decided to run. And second, my wife and I really, especially during COVID, thought long and hard about the organizations that we wanted to spend more time on and spend resources on. And as we kept compiling our list of the many amazing organizations out there, the schools kept coming back and kept being on the top of that list. And so that's really why I'm here this evening and why I'm running for the school board. Thank you.
Michele, it's your turn.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone for watching and being here, and David for joining me on this adventure. So I have lived here in Larchmont since 2003. We moved here when I was pregnant with my first child. My husband and I have 3 children, one recent graduate of the schools, a 10th grader and a 7th grader. They've all been in school here since kindergarten. I am a clinical psychologist by training, but I have been working as a volunteer in our community since we moved here, starting at the Larchmont Newcomers Club, Larchmont Temple Nursery School, and other areas of our community. And then once my children started at school, I began volunteering in PTA capacity in various roles at Murray Avenue School. And then I became involved in district-wide in our SEPTA, which is the Special Education PTA, which is now the Student Support Committee, which is a branch of the PT Council, which helps our students and families of students with disabilities to support those families and connections and help advocate for our families. And I've also participated in the district in 2 district-wide roles, one on the enrollment task force several years ago, and I've been on the district equity team as the PTA representative for the past couple of years. And really my involvement throughout the community and in our schools has been to step in and help advocate, help connect, help improve what we have, which is amazing. And we can always grow and be better. And that's what I've seen as my role here in the community.
David, you mentioned your interest in schools and education, but you will obviously bring experience and skills to the board. Can you talk a little about what the board can look forward to?
Sure, happy to. So in addition to my own experience of being a product of a public school and being in public school for 13 years, I also, in my professional career, I do a lot with different types of education organizations. So I work for a firm called Savills, which is a global real estate brokerage and advisory firm. And I lead the team that focuses on nonprofits, higher education, and other types of education, educational organizations. So I lead a team here in New York that focuses on helping all different types of nonprofits and all different types of educational organizations help them really optimize their real estate. And so every day I'm dealing with financial analyses, different types of budgets, negotiating with developers, negotiating with architects, working on different types of leases, different types of sales, acquisitions, purchases, so all different types of real estate transactions. And so with those skills, I think that I can really add a lot of benefit to not only the space and real estate discussions that are having at the board that are top of mind for many community members, whether they be fields or other types of spaces. But more importantly, in my 20 years that I've been doing this with all of these different types of nonprofits, they're all governed by boards. And all of these boards come, and everybody on the board comes with different sets of beliefs and values and ideas. And so, my biggest, I think, skill set is really bringing all those people together and helping them build consensus to arrive at a conclusion and to arrive at a decision to move forward. And I think that that's what I've learned over the 20 years that I've been dealing with all these different types of boards and schools and municipalities, is really how to bring people together to make complicated decisions that will be successful in the long run. And I think that type of work in my professional setting will benefit hopefully the board and the district moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Michele, you've got lots of experience in the schools, as you mentioned. In terms of other professional experience, what will you add to the board?
Well, I think the depth of knowledge of the district, you're right, is something I carry with me, which I think is certainly very important at this time when we have very new administrators in the district, and that continuity of knowledge, I think, is extremely important right now. In terms of other experience, I have been on several boards, worked in different capacities, and been the chair of several boards. And currently, I'm the chair of the Union of Reformed Judaism 6 Point SciTech Academy, which is a not-for-profit STEM camp. And through that, I was fortunate enough to participate in a leadership development program through the Harold Grinspoon Foundation, specifically a year-long board chair development program, which really helped my understanding of board leadership and fiduciary responsibilities and how governance and board operations, could be optimized. I also have my psychology background and the understanding of systems and how people work together and how a system can operate as a whole, more than the sum of its parts, right? And how different groups and different individuals within a system can work together. I think those are probably my primary qualifications and experiences that I think can help me in the role as a board member.
And you mentioned some new administrators. I'm not sure if either of you will play a role in selecting Dr. Schaap's replacement as a superintendent of schools. Do you know?
I think the right now, the current board is going to be interviewing candidates shortly. I think they hope to select a new superintendent before we would begin.
And they're also looking for a replacement for Annie Ward, who is
Right.
the assistant superintendent for curriculum.
Mhm.
Those are two key positions in any school district.
Yes, and our assistant superintendent for student support services just began in January.
Ah, okay.
So we have fresh administrators. In fact, I think there's only 2 administrators across all of the building schools that are currently tenured.
As residents in the community, I'm interested in what you think are the greatest strengths and maybe the weaknesses, the gaps in our schools. And I'd like to ask about that. Anybody want to start that? Michele, David?
You want me to start? Do you want to start?
Go for it.
Okay, so
Let's start with
think-
strengths.
I think our largest strength, the first biggest strength is that we are an amazing community and an amazing place to live. And that's a big strength because that we're always going to have people that want to live in our community because of our location, because of the breadth of opportunity here, the water, recreation, religious organizations, everything we have to offer here. So I think that is an amazing strength for us. And because we attract people to live here, we have great diversity, and people are really enthusiastic about living in our community, and people care deeply about our community and about the schools here. And I think that is probably one of our primary biggest strengths. I think we dedicate a lot of time and resources to the education of our students. We have tremendously strong faculty. Our teachers are wonderful and caring. I also think we have had a history of looking forward and trying to envision new ideas, new programs, new opportunities for our students. So I think those are the biggest strengths that pop into my mind.
David, do you have a feeling or some thoughts about strengths or weaknesses?
Yes, absolutely. So I think there are primarily, I would say, 3 strengths in our community. There are many more, but I'll just highlight 3. One is the teachers. I think we have some of the best teachers in the region. And I think that we need to celebrate them. I think we do a pretty good job of celebrating them, but I think we need to do better at promoting them and also letting them be innovative. I feel that sometimes teachers, they have so much to do in terms of reporting, in terms of adhering to the curriculum, in terms of test preparation, that we sometimes don't let them really spend the time that they want and the time that they need and the time that students want, whether it be in smaller groups and one-on-one and one-on-two and one-on-three dynamics. So because of the day is so scheduled and is so pressed, I think it really does limit the amount of time that teachers have for innovative and creative learning. So that's one. 2, I think another strength of our community is the diversity of our community. If you look around in the districts that surround us, I think there is far less diversity. And I think that's a real strength and a pillar of our community. And I think we need to continue to celebrate that and really bring people into the fold more and more and ensure that I think that there's real areas of improvement that need to happen with respect to obviously DEI and all of those efforts, which are just getting started and which need to be obviously continued and reinforced. But I do think that diversity as a whole is a real strength and a real pillar of our community that also needs to be celebrated. And 3, And this is something that I really want to focus on over the next few years. Is I think another strength is community involvement. We do not have a passive community. And so, and people really feel strongly about the schools, which they should, because that's one of the main reasons why we all move here. And we have really smart, really talented, and really gifted community members. So why not take advantage of all of their strengths and all of their skills? It shouldn't just be about the 7 people on the board. We should tap into that knowledge base because it's really massive. And so I think that those are 3 absolute strengths. In terms of weaknesses and areas of improvement, I think that I think the district overall can improve upon its systems and accountability. I think that, again, it is a municipality and it is a government agency, if you will. But I think bringing in some strength, some lessons from the private sector, I think will be good to improve efficiency, improve financial accountability. The budget process, I think, could definitely be improved upon. So I think that's one gap, if you will. Another gap is, kind of in my wheelhouse a little bit, is our campus and our portfolio of real estate holdings. We barely have enough fields for the community to do all of the sports and the teams to play. We can't field enough JV teams because we don't have field space. And so I think from a fields perspective, that's going to be that's a major issue that we need to, I think, improve upon. There have been some inroads. There have been some, I think, wins in the recent few years at the high school. The new kitchen that they have is phenomenal. The new STEM lab is fantastic. Recently announced at Homix, the new playground that they're going to renovate, wonderful. But I do think that overall the facilities need to reflect the district as a whole, and I don't think they do right now. They don't reflect the quality of the teaching and the quality of the teachers and our students, and I think that really does need to be improved.
Michele, I don't think you mentioned any gaps, but I think from reading your literature from 2021 when you were running for the board, I know you have a special interest in students' mental health. And you can't not read a story in today's papers or listen to television and not hear a story about teen angst and worry. And is that an area where there could be improvement in the schools?
I definitely think so. I think the district is responding as well as we can be right now. And I do think it is a problem here for us. It's a challenge in Mamaroneck, and you mentioned across the country, right? And we see definitely an increase in behavioral challenges for especially the younger students, and certainly emotional, psychological challenges for all students, but middle and high school students, with increases in substance use, eating disorders, self-harm behavior, suicidal thoughts, all social challenges. We're hearing a lot in the media now about social media and the harms of that, which certainly exacerbate all of the other challenges. So I think as a district, we are doing what we can to support students because we want students to be able to arrive at school ready to learn, which is our top priority. I do think there are some more things that we're going to need to implement to support our students in their mental and social health in order to increase the learning opportunities and learning outcomes. I do see the other challenges, like I mentioned, I want to say youngness, but it's not young in age. It's fresh here to Mamaroneck administrators, right? Who might not have the institutional knowledge, who are getting to know our community. I think it also presents an opportunity for fresh ideas and fresh perspectives, which is really important, but we want to make sure that our administrators understand where we've come from as a district and who our community is, so that then they can lend their knowledge and insight into helping us move forward. I think an additional challenge that we have is, I think, an increased need in terms of educating our students when it comes to reading and writing and literacy. That has been definitely a hot topic for families in our district, probably for many years, but the parents are speaking up more about that challenge. And I think we really need to take a look at how we teach reading and writing, and to make sure our students are getting the underlying skills that they need in those areas, so that they can build on those skills as they move through our system. Because when students leave Mamaroneck High School, right, we want to make sure that they all have a very strong foundation in the academic skills that they need in order to be successful in whatever path they take after they leave us.
I want to ask about how you measure success, but before we do that, just for those people who might be joining us now, I'd like to reintroduce David Carlos and Michele Metsch. They are candidates for the Mamaroneck School Board, and it's an uncontested election. It will be on May 16th, along with a vote for the school budget in your local elementary schools. I think except Chatsworth is voting in the Larchmont Avenue Church Russell Hall. I guess there's some work being done at Chatsworth. But other than that, Mamaroneck Avenue School and Murray Avenue School and Central School and Mamaroneck Avenue. Did I mention that? Anyway, that's it. So how do you measure success? Is it just is it the data of grades and acceptances into college and things like that? Or is there more to it?
If I may,
Sure.
I think there's more to it than that, Mike. I think obviously test scores and college admittances are interesting data points, and test scores kind of obviously are an evaluation of student achievement and success, but that can't be the sole arbiter of how a child is doing and how a school system is doing. So I think there needs to be more sets of data, and both qualitative and quantitative data, in order to accurately reflect what's happening in each classroom, in each school, and across the district. And so I think, there needs to be, and this is again back to kind of really trying to create systems and policies and accountability and transparency in the district and everything that we do, in order to infer and inform how the budget gets created. Because a lot of times it's through, innuendo and through, well, I think this is working, and, this seems to be working. And so let's just keep doing it. But I think we need better data. We need more data. And I think that comes in different ways. So for instance, teachers are in the classroom every single day. And so they can provide very rich data on how a particular student is doing. Are they meeting their expectations? Are they meeting goals? Do they perhaps need extra help? What kind of help do they need? And what resources can that specific school provide to help that student? Two, the students. The students are amazing sources of data. Now, perhaps not so much kindergartners, first grade, second graders, but once you start getting into, higher elementary school, middle school, and certainly high school, this is a wealth of data that I'm not sure that we're doing a good job of collecting data from the students as to what's working, what isn't working, what different ideas do they have, both in teaching methodology, changes to curriculum, but also, what else would they like to see in terms of, different clubs, different activities, etc. And then obviously, yes, you have, all of the test scores and the more quantitative types of data, the test scores, all the different achievements, obviously the ongoing schoolwork, and report card scoring, if you will. And then the last data point I'll say is what I mentioned previously in one of our strengths of our community is the community itself. Asking community for feedback. The community is arguably the biggest stakeholder for this school district. So, bringing those people more into the fold, we are 7 people that represents a community of thousands. And so bringing those people in, and one thing that I, would like to, one of our first meetings that we'll have, Michele, and with the other trustees is, can we form more groups, more working teams around different topics? I know that there's a policy group and there's a curriculum group and there's a building and grounds group. Well, it shouldn't just be 3 board members on that group. It should be, yes, a board member or 2 that perhaps chairs the group, but maybe there's 10, community members that are skilled in that particular topic that can come and add value. So I think it's that type of data, that type of involvement, that type of engagement that's only going to benefit the school district.
Michele, measuring success?
I agree. I think any one data point gives you something, but it also has its flaws, right? So it's really about taking many data points, like David mentioned, test scores, college placement, AP tests, right? Those are all just one little bits of data, different pieces. But I think also, as David mentioned, in terms of community engagement, I think that's a really important way to evaluate how the school is doing. I also think student connection how do we evaluate, do students feel connected to the school? Do they feel confident in themselves as learners? How do they think critically? How do they work together in groups, right? These are all things that aren't necessarily measured by test scores, by ELA or math test scores, but they are all crucial for success post-college in whatever, or to college, or in a vocation, or whatever students do after they leave us. We need to make sure we are looking at kind of all of those areas, right? All of the skills that we want our students to have when they leave, and how we're doing as a whole community for all of our students, in order to determine if we're being successful. So I think some of the standard things that we measure are good, and then we need to think of other ways to measure some of these really important skills.
I happened to have interviewed Meg Kaufer this afternoon, earlier today, really, and she's the president of the STEM Alliance in Larchmont and Mamaroneck, and she was talking about how much learning happens outside the school environment. But it occurred to me that STEM in Mamaroneck and Larchmont is successful because of the support of the schools, as is the Center for Continuing Education, and so that's some of the success that I see that I know in Mamaroneck exists because of that support of allied organizations functioning in the same way that the schools do in some ways. I wanted to ask you about an incident that I remember happening. I guess it was about 4 or 5 years ago. There was I think it was an incident of racial bullying that happened at Honix, and I know some people are still talking about that. Do you have any thoughts about how has the district responded, and is there more work that needs to be done on that account? Maybe Michele, you.
Sure, I'm happy to start. So I think it's certainly a complicated, really important issue. I think one of the top priorities is for students to feel safe and respected and appreciated and welcome, for who they are, right? That every student should show up with all that they are, whatever identities they carry with them, whatever personality traits, anything about them, and have a place where they feel like they belong and feel supported and appreciated, right, for who they are, and that they have something to offer when they come to the community at school. So I think that that's certainly a top priority. And I think that that's not something that's very easy to do in, the United States, in our culture.
Sure.
So I think the district has responded by the district equity team coming up with a district equity plan, doing a lot of education for teachers around identity, culture, belonging. There is a New York State education mandate on culturally sustaining and affirming curriculum, which is a framework that schools are required to abide by to also work on these issues. I think we are working towards increasing restorative practices in our schools when infractions happen. I think students pick up things from their environments, from social media, from entertainment, from the culture. And I also think students practice sometimes, they practice out different personalities in school, and they say things that are provocative or that they know are wrong to see what kind of reaction is going to happen, especially in that middle school kind of age. And that's to be expected,
come together,
right? Middle schoolers they test the boundaries. They are going to say inappropriate things, not all of them, some of them, and to varying degrees, right? And it is an opportunity to teach our students how to be respectful, what is appropriate, what isn't appropriate, and how we can work together as a community to make sure everyone feels included. So I think while work is happening, more work can be done in that area. And I don't think we'll ever be able to rid our schools totally of people saying inappropriate or hurtful things, because I think children do that from time to time. But how we respond can be really crucial in how then what happens, right? Is it a learning opportunity? Can people come together, make amends, work, and move forward?
David, do you have any thoughts about that?
Sure. I think,
You're muted right now, I think.
no, can you hear me?
Nope, still can't hear you.
I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
There you go. Now we can hear you. Yes, I had asked if you had a thought about that incident or Michelle's response to it.
Sure. Yeah, I agree with everything Michele just said. I'll just add, I think the district needs to have very clear policy on any type of bullying, be it racial or otherwise. Obviously, it's unacceptable, and it should have very clear policy as to what happens when there's an incident like that. And I think that all of the programs that Michele just described are really helpful, because again, we do have a community that is diverse, which I think is a real strength and benefit. But unfortunately, I think when you have people from different cultures and from different backgrounds coming together, that there's some perhaps insensitivities, perhaps sometimes there's some ignorance, and things happen. I think things happen in middle school regardless, because to Michelle's point, they're testing constantly. But I do think, I think the takeaway here is that the district needs to have a very clear policy and a very clear stance on what's acceptable, what isn't acceptable, and obviously have as many programs for teachers, for administrators, to then, continue the education process of bringing all these different groups together in I know this sounds idyllic, but really to celebrate our differences rather than knocking each other down. So thank you.
I'm curious, as you were thinking about running for the school board, being on a school board is an all-volunteer job, which requires a fair amount of time and commitment. It's a 3-year term of office. What were people asking you questions besides why do you want to do it? I'm sure they asked you that, as I did. But what are the questions that you hear from friends and neighbors about schools now that you are about to become a school board member? What's the most frequently asked question, let's say?
Maybe I'll go first. The most frequently asked question I got from my friends was, "Are you crazy?" And apparently I am. So
They meant that in a complimentary way.
I guess, yeah, first they said, thank you so much. Then, are you crazy?
Mhm.
Obviously it's a serious time commitment.
Yeah.
And, thankfully, professionally, I have some flexibility that allows me to make that commitment. Um, and then they start asking about kind of, priorities, why the school board, why not something else? And, I kind of summarize, just like I did previously,
Sure.
as to why I want to make this commitment, for my family and for the larger community.
Uh-huh. Michelle, is there a question that comes to you most often?
There haven't been as many questions as people, what I know, which I've known for many years, but it becomes clearer, is that we do have a very diverse community and everyone has a different perspective and a different take on what their priority is. So I think more than questions, I'm getting, let me tell you about what I think is the problem, or let me tell you about this area that I think needs some attention. And it really is all the different pieces, right? So there are many families concerned about reading and writing, right? There are families concerned about performing arts, families concerned about the sports fields and the opportunities for athletics, and all the different pieces, which I think is really important as a board, right? To understand that everything we do is important to someone in our community, right? That there really isn't anything that we do that is not important. And so it's about balancing the needs of all the community members with what we have to offer with the resources that we have, right? And how do we maximize those resources to have the most opportunity for the most students to do the most things, right? And to succeed, to learn and to grow in the most areas. Obviously, that's a huge, it's a huge task. Obviously, hard decisions, have to be made. But so that's what I've gotten the most, is everybody wants to tell me about what they think is the most important thing.
So you're being lobbied, in other words.
Definitely.
David, are you being lobbied too? David, did you hear my question?
I did, yes.
Oh, you're muted again.
How's that? Can you hear me now?
Nope, still can't hear you.
I'm unmuted.
Oh, yes, now you're good.
Okay, so are you also lobbied?
Sure, yeah. I think that's just the nature of the beast. That once you throw your hat in the ring, you have a target on your back. So I'm just going to remember to wear my sunglasses and hat when I'm watching my kid's soccer game.
Yes, but you don't have to campaign this year because you're not running with anybody else who's running counter to your suggestions. So you don't have to make campaign promises. I'm just saying that as a resident, not of Mamaroneck, but a general resident, a citizen. Let's talk a little bit about the vote on May 16th. It's not just for you two candidates. It's, I think, probably as important, or maybe more important, is the school budget. Michele, do you have, I don't think the final school budget has been announced yet, has it?
No, I think Tuesday night is the final, the community budget meeting. So I would hope, people can come out to the meeting or watch it on LMC. I think that's really important to be informed. The budget does allow for quite a bit of growth this year. I think overall we're adding teachers, we're adding administrative positions. The funding from the state has been favorable, which is always a good thing. There are also 2 other propositions on the ballot on May 16th that voters should know about, and there'll be communication from the district about that. One is about our energy efficiency and working with an energy company that assumes the cost of any upgrades that will save the district money. So it doesn't cost the district anything to make these upgrades to our system, but will benefit from the cost savings, the energy savings going forward. And the other one is to set up a reserve fund for replacing the artificial turf field that will need to happen. So rather than that being an emergency in 10 years, we'll have the funds set aside already, like a savings account, it's to designate that savings for the turf field. So I think all of those propositions are really important for our community to vote on
I'm
May
assuming,
16th.
I'm assuming that residents in or voters in Mamaroneck and Larchmont have gotten information about these.
I don't think the
propositions?
district information has hit mailboxes yet, but that will be coming.
Okay. David, do you want to add anything about the importance of voting on the budget?
No, I think it's critically important that, again, community members are involved and engaged. I think it's if everybody can go out and vote on the 16th, I think do your civic duty and ensure that, the schools are supported with the budget that's outlined. I do think that there are opportunities, as I mentioned previously, to make this process more efficient and transparent. But that we'll save that for another day.
What do you say to there's always some people in the community who complain that it's not affordable. What do you say to the people who may not have kids in the district and are going to vote no or plan to vote no? Can you say anything to them?
I think good schools are important for a flourishing community. I think the school district is kind of the foundation of our community and one of the reasons why people like to live here. I think as a district, we actually spend, I believe we are the second lowest in Westchester per student expenditure. So I think we are doing a lot for not as much money as our surrounding communities, in terms of our per student spending. And that's important for people also to understand that I don't think the funds are being wasted. Could we find efficiencies? Like probably, but I think we are really maximizing our per student spending on education in this district, and it really serves everyone in the whole community to support our schools.
David, I remember once hearing an argument that good schools sort of guarantees good home values in a community. Is that something you would subscribe to?
You just stole my line, Mike.
Sorry, David.
So I was just going to say, I just jotted down, good schools equal increased property values. So for those that perhaps whose kids have already gone through the school system, or perhaps they don't have children, but love our community, I would say that many of us moved to Larchmont and Mamaroneck because of the great schools. And so if you want to continue to live in a great place, have a great community, consistently have very high property values, a great school district is one of the main contributing factors to property values. And so I would say, even if you don't have children in the school district currently today, it's in your best interest to support the school budget.
Okay. I'm at the end of my questions. I'm wondering if there's anything that I have not asked about that you'd like to address. Michele, can I start with you?
Trying to think if there's anything you missed. I'm really looking forward. Obviously, I ran for the board 2 years ago. This is something that I've really been dedicated to serving our schools for many years, and I look forward to the opportunity to serve our community in this way. It's going to be hard work. It is often, I think, thankless work for Board of Education. I think people often complain more than they compliment a Board of Education, but I'm really looking forward to rolling up my sleeves and getting to work to serve our community and make sure all of our students are feeling confident and connected and achieving academic success.
Thank you. David, is there anything you'd like to add?
I'm very much looking forward to working with my fellow trustees and more so working with all of the new leaders, new superintendent, new assistant superintendent, 2 new board members, So I think there's a lot of new energy, and I think there's a lot of really interesting dynamic stuff happening currently, and that has been happening over the last few years. So I think there's really positive momentum, and I think that the next few years are going to be really interesting. There's some very interesting stuff happening, kind of percolating, that hopefully Michele and I can, bring to fruition. And again, that'll benefit all of the students in our community, and the families. So I look forward to getting to work. Thank you.
You're welcome, and feel free to use the services of LMC Media anytime you want to get some information out. We are here and available to everybody in the community, especially the schools. That goes for Mamaroneck as well as Neck, and that we also serve. And the vote again is May 16th. It's at your local elementary school, except for Chatsworth. Residents there are going to vote across the street at the Russell Hall at Larchmont Avenue Church. And I believe it's early in the morning. Is the polls open at what time?
I believe it's 7 a.m. to 9 p.m.
7 to 9
I
p.m.
think.
Are there absentee ballots available?
There are. You can find that information on the district website.
The district website is a good place to go. Thank you both for spending time with us, and thank you viewers for watching. Good night.